Welcome to the World of Art with Paul Crimi. And tonight I brought a photograph of lavender. My wife and I just got back from a trip to Italy, France, and Spain. And she fell in love with Italy and Spain, and of course, lavender in France. So I'm going to do this painting tonight. I'm going to hold it still so you can see it. And we're going to see if we can surprise her with the lavender. This happens to be lavender from my house, right beside as you go up the stairs. And she's saying, oh, look how beautiful my lavender is. So we're going to do that tonight. But let me talk about last month's show. I did this painting of the storm, and that was our first show. And I wanted to bring it up and show you how powerful it is and how soft and quiet everything seems to be, but it's really the afterstorm. So I wanted to show that because it's the first show we did, and as the first show, I wound up giving it to the company that's running this show. Let me see if I can put this out of the way now. I'll put it over here so nothing happens to it. Okay, I'm going to get started. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to block all of this stuff in. You'll see me do the ground. I got to just put on a touch of gray. I was looking for that in the box here. And I don't know if I have it, so I might have to use black. And I was cleaning out my paint box. I love to get involved in this stuff. And here's some black, good. I can make the gray. Painting is something you do in your head, and then you manage to do it on the canvas. This painting is already done, and I haven't even started. That's the kind of attitude I have towards painting. And it's an attitude that you should develop in yourself. Most people say, well, I don't know if I can do this. As soon as you say that, it puts a stop on what you're going to do. I don't ever say, I don't know if I can do that. I always say I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to find the right brush to start with, and then I'm going to start. No, that's not the right one. It has to have the right feeling. Maybe this one. I like them when they're nice and soft. Okay, let's start with a little bit of gray on the bottom of this particular painting. So what I'm doing is I'm mixing white and gesso and a little bit of black. And I'm going to carry my tray over. And so you got these bricks on the bottom, so you're going to want to make sure you put down some color. And don't worry about how much color or how much. Just put it down. Looks like it's just white. I'm going to make it darker as I go along. I have this guy in my building, and he does the jumping things for the horses, for the big companies. He hired me to do one of these posts for him. What a nightmare. You know, there's certain things, if you're a fine artist, you should be a fine artist. You're not a commercial artist. Stay away from stuff like that. It can drive you to drink, honest to God. I worked on this thing for 3 hours, and I was trying to make the bricks look like bricks, and he didn't want that. He wanted them to look like, he didn't want to scare the horses. That's what he told me afterwards. He says, if you make the bricks too strong, the horses won't jump over the wall. And what he does is he makes walls for these horses to jump over. Kind of a funky business. I don't know if that's enough space. Let me check. A third. You know, another thing about painting, another thing is that painting is like photography. A lot of people don't realize that when you do a painting, it has 3 qualities. 1, 2, 3. Think of it in that sense, using your photographic mind to figure it out, and it makes a big difference in how the painting comes out. You try not to make everything happen in the middle of the canvas, because that seems to get the judges a little nutty. I mean, good night. If you do a great painting, I don't care where you go, But the judges, when you judge them, when you want to put a painting in a show, they'll say, I love the painting, but it's in the middle of the painting and I'm not going to get it in. I'm not going to let it go into the show because I'm a judge and I'm going to judge it that way. So that kind of stuff drives me up the street. All right, so I got this little bit of color on the canvas. And I'm going to set up my blower, which I thought I did. There it is. And I'm going to dry this. I do this so I can help speed up the whole TV thing. But I do it in my studio when I'm doing a painting or if I'm doing a print. So, today I did 3 prints. I had printed yesterday on my etching press. I took, here we go, I took my plexiglass and I put ink on it, printing ink, and I took an instrument and I designed a bunch of these beautiful prints. It'll probably take 2 or 3 weeks to dry, even with the blower, because I use so much ink. It's been a while since I used professional ink. I usually use stuff that's kind of cheap and not expensive. The stuff I used yesterday, my son bought for me when I bought this press. My son's fabulous, my oldest son, Christopher. He didn't want me to buy the press. Then I told him, hey, look, when I pass, you can have the press and it'll probably be worth $25,000, $30,000. So he felt that $3,000 investment was a good idea. Yeah, okay. You know, that's what people who think about money think. He thinks about money a lot. He's got a bricklaying company. He's a fantastic bricklayer and he's a fantastic guy. All right, so what I'm going to do now is throw on some green like this as a background, different areas of green. So I'm setting up the canvas. You know, it's, maybe you wouldn't understand this if I didn't explain it. I paint this whole thing green because it's going to bleed through and the purple is going to jump out at you. But you have to put the green in it, because if you try to put the green in afterwards, it doesn't work as well. I mean, years and years of experience in painting. I started painting when I was 5, so I'm 75 today. So that, if you figured 5 and 75, that's a few years of painting. And I drove every teacher and every professor and everybody that ever taught me crazy about painting. I had a million questions. I'm the kind of person you don't want in your class. I drive you nuts because I ask a million questions. But I'm going to tell you something, if you don't ask questions, you don't learn. Even to this day, even in the prayer group, I drove them crazy, or the things that I do. Because I believe if you ask questions, you learn. And as a youngster, I was deaf, so I had to learn a lot of stuff later in life than most people. And then I had an operation at the Children's Hospital and they got my hearing back and I went in the Marines and lost it again. But because I was deaf as a kid, I had to go to lip reading school and all of that nonsense. But it wasn't really nonsense because you believe I'd go to a party and I could read everybody's lips. It was funny. My wife to this day gets a kick out of that. What are they talking about, Paul? And I say, I'm not going to tell you. And I was always amazed that, oh, I don't want to get into that. Things that people said that you didn't think that they would say, and that's just a funny situation. So if I'm looking at you intently, I'm probably reading your lips. So that's something that people don't believe. They always test you. They start talking to you without speaking, like they're testing you, and it's if you can really do it. All right, so we got this down too. And it doesn't matter how perfect the green is, because it's just going to bleed through. But it does make a difference on what we're doing. In the next minute I'm going to do is I'm going to put down some of that stuff that's below the flowers. Just some of the dried weeds that come from the purple flower. All right, so let me get some of that out. I was really prepared here. I had everything set up, and then I realized I didn't put, or maybe I did. Yeah, I did to it. Okay. I did put some of it out. So let's get a smaller brush. When I come do this show next time, you know what happened? I'm coming down my stairs, and I have in the elevator, and it's a funny story. It's coming down the stairs, and I got a two-wheeler, and I'm taking all of this stuff on the two-wheeler. And I got 3 steps outside my building. And I figured, wow, I got the two-wheeler, I'll have no problem. I'm pulling this two-wheeler down the steps. And, of course, everything goes all over the place. And I got all about 150 brushes. You know, they're all over the world. It's funny as hell. I'm sitting there. I finally get them all picked up, and I go down the next step, and they fall down again. You think I would have put it in the truck? No, I'm too Italian. I'll tell you, learning experience about everything. I'm talking to God. I'm saying, listen, you're having a good time with me here. And he's not having a good time. I'm having a good time. So I'm putting this brown down here on the bottom like this. Now this is underneath. So when I get to do that particular thing on the bricks, I'll have some of it down. So this is how I set up a painting. You know, so you get some idea of what an artist is thinking about and what he's doing. Then I'm going to dry the green, and I'm going to dry the brown, and then I'm going to start putting stuff on the canvas that looks like flowers. This little corner has some gray on it, but I didn't put it in. I didn't want to. I think it detracts from the painting, from the photo as well. I'm going to put my glasses on. I think it'll help a little. Oh yeah, now I can see the canvas. I'm having fun with this thing blowing around. I should have put a clamp on it and held it up. I'll bring a clamp the next time. Okay. So I put 2 different colors of purple on the palette, which is the plate. I forgot to bring my palettes. I always forget something. Anyways, I'm one of those guys from the Marine Corps. I learned you overcome. Oh, I can tape my picture. There you go. Thank you. Thank you, Paul. Then it won't be blowing all over the place. Nice. I love people. Like I was saying, you know, when you're in the Marine Corps, they teach you never have to worry. You always can overcome by using your mind. And I've always used that experience in saying, if I can't do this, I can figure out how to do that. And it works. Because there's so many things in your life that you can't do in your mind, but you can do if you go beyond your mind. And that's what they taught me in the Marine Corps and all the other people, and my dad and my brother. I have so many stories about the Marines, but I'm not going to go there. I'm going to be nice. But I was in the Marines when Kennedy was assassinated. I was in Parris Island. You know, to the day I die, I'll never forget the attitude of those people when that happened. Oh, and how we felt. And I was 19 years old at the time, so. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start putting some of this stuff on the canvas and on the floor. I do it like this, I'll be doing it forever. I better get a bigger brush. So it doesn't look like I know what I'm doing, but I think I do know what I'm doing. I'm going to cover the whole canvas with purple and let some of the green bleed through. And then I'm going to go back and lighten this up and make it into flowers. And you're sitting out there saying, what is he doing? Just making it all purple, all green? I don't know. I have a little experience doing this, just a little, 70 years. And I think every day I feel like I've learned something today that I didn't have yesterday. So I call this blocking in. What I'm doing is I'm blocking in the canvas so that I can do the painting, the serious painting, on top of this. And you can sit there and say, how did he get there? I sat here and watched him and he got to a place, I don't know how he got there. He got there because he mixed the purple, the green, and it's all make-believe. Painting is an illusion. It's like magic. And you can't get discouraged about it. And you can't think that you're going to do a Van Gogh or a Matisse or a Rembrandt. You're going to do your Paul Crimi and your whoever you are kind of painting. And that's what makes painting so exciting, because every painting you do is your personality, is you. And you're going to be so happy when you start to see the results. Doesn't look like much right now. But I'm telling you, when I'm done, or when I get to be done, or when I get close to being to an hour, I hope you'll see what I'm doing. Because we're going to do a bunch of these shows. Every other Thursday, we're going to do one of these shows. And we're going to do a whole bunch of different things. We're going to do Italy, and we're going to do... I just got back from a cruise with my son and my wife and his wife and his grandson and not his grandson, his young son and his older daughter and a couple of friends. And we had a great time. Her mother and father and we're the mother and father of Christopher. So we had a great time on the Oasis, on this cruise ship. The first time I've ever been on a cruise ship. And maybe the last time. I'm not one for cruising, I'll tell you that right now. I thought it was an eating fest, to tell you the truth. But that's my opinion. Some people love it. They think cruise is fabulous. They think everything is great. You know, when you have something to do, I think it changes your life. I have something to do all the time. And it's to go to the studio, and it's to print, and it's to paint. Because I cut hair for 40 years, and I've done a lot of other things. But my biggest passion in my life is doing what I'm doing right now. So I have some of this down. All right, so let's go and dry it up a little. So we got this thing started. And this is Van Gogh. Van Gogh standing in the woods somewhere, or standing on the road, and he dashed away at all of this stuff on the canvas. Or Matisse, or anybody that paints outside. And they put down lay a plan down for themselves. And it sets up what they're going to do. And some people sitting out there saying, oh, it's almost like the flowers already. There's always those people. I mean, I can tell you, I know, I've been one of those people myself. Used to watch this Bob Ross time. If I could stay awake when he did it, I'd enjoy the painting, but most of the time, there's something about his voice to put me sound asleep in 5 minutes. Okay, now we'll go to the small brush again. Hopefully we'll find a small brush that works. I need something that's really cool and works. Yeah, maybe this one. I don't know. I'll see. So I pick up the tray again and I start to put in some of the greens. I think I should throw a little more dark green in because I think I want to start with a darker green. See how quickly you use up the paint. And don't be stingy with the paint. That's the hardest thing to teach a student or a person. They want to say, I pay so much for the paint, I don't want to waste it. Waste the paint. The paint is only the surface of the canvas. It's the thing that you use to paint. It's the item that's important. So you got these green spots on the painting in the photograph. You're going to see them here and there. So you just throw green right in that spot where you see it. Throw it in and just mix it up and throw it in again so that it jumps out a little at the beginning here. And as we go up, the flowers take over the green. You don't have as much green up the top. You have some here and there. So I just dashed the canvas with stuff like that here and there. So what I'm doing is I'm setting up the whole entire canvas, and then I'm going to do the frosting is the finishing part. What I'm doing is I'm setting up the canvas by doing what I'm doing. I'm going to bring a couple of my big paintings in, and I'm going to see if we can put them up so that people can see how I get to a painting. Well, if you come to my studio, 1000 Main Street, Hanson, Mass., and I'm there Monday through Thursday, usually from 9 to 5. Come upstairs, walk around, and see what I've got. I have 350 paintings in the building, up on the walls. The landlord said I could put a few things up, so I did. And he came in and said, oh my God, a few things? This is incredible. And I said, thanks. I don't know if he was being facetious or serious or what, but I said, you told me I could put a few things up, so what I did was I put a few things up. It never looks like anything when you do something like this. You say, oh my God, it looks like nothing. What is he doing? It's a waste of time. It's nice and dark and no, yeah. This center of the canvas right in through here is pretty dark. Some of it even has black in the bottom. I don't know if I should throw a little black in there, maybe just a touch. I think I have some here. Good. It has it right in here and underneath, and so you just stick a little black in there. There's a lot of artists that won't use black. I think they're silly. I use black all the time. Black exists. It's all colors. It's in every painting. I don't know, some of these people, they're teachers and they think they know everything, and they're going to go by the rules that were set for them by somebody else and all that nonsense. You set the rules. You're the rules. What you paint and how you paint is yours. Don't let somebody make it theirs. There's too many people that have too much to say about painting and they don't paint. I love people like that. They criticize everybody for what they do and they do nothing. I love it. So I'm going to get serious here. I'm going to dry some of that and then I'm going to get a little serious. Good. Although I have been serious somewhat. So what I'm doing is I'm taking out all of the water in the paint that's on the canvas right now so that I can paint on top of it and make it work. And what I got to do now is, you're going to see me, I'm going to start on one side and go across. So I'm going to start on this end of the photograph and go across. And I'm going to work rather fast, because an hour isn't enough time to really do a painting like this. My son makes fun of me. He says, my dad paints like this. Well, that's the way I paint. Because I spend hours and hours and weeks painting some of the paintings I paint. But when you do a TV show, you only have an hour to get it up and get it ready and get it going. And so what I'm doing is trying to make everything work so that everybody's happy. So I think I need to throw some white in this. Let me get a big slappy brush. Good. All right, so what I've done is I want this to be a little lighter, so I threw some white in. And I'm going to start touching the canvas like this. And this is what this whole painting is going to look like. And what I do is I touch the canvas with the paintbrush like this, over and over and over and over and over. And I make it darker in some spots and lighter in other spots. And I keep going over it and over it and over it. And eventually it starts to build up and you start to see. And it's an illusion. It's in anything you want. I don't care. I want the painting to look like the photograph. And this is how I paint a painting. And it's, sometimes people say to me, well, I don't know how you do that like that. You just keep touching the canvas. And well, when I do a fall scene and I do leaves, I do it the same way. When I do grass, I do it the same. It's something that I've been doing since I was a little kid, and I keep doing it over and over and over and over. Because that's the way I paint, maybe not the way somebody else paints. They say, well, he's just touching the canvas very lightly, making it look like a painting. And it's not really a painting, it's just a dot. It's, well, what is a flower? A dot. When you're standing and looking at a photograph, you're looking at dots. And we got time on this now, half an hour. I'm never going to finish this in an hour, so hey, we only got a half an hour left. What I'm going to do is do as much of this as I possibly can to show you how it works. And then I'll have to come back and show you the painting after I'm done, because we're never going to get it all done. So I'm going to go like a wild guy here and do the most I can to get this as much down as I possibly can. And just keep talking to you about what I'm doing and how I'm doing it and why I'm doing it, so that you have some idea. I'm throwing on some of that stuff that's on the bottom just to give it a look other than the splashing baloney that I showed you earlier. And okay. See, so painting on a TV show is different than painting at your house or painting at your studio. You have a limited time to get what you want on the canvas. And so in order to do that, you just got to keep doing what I'm doing here and keep stabbing away until you get this thing across the whole entire canvas. And then all of a sudden you're going to say, wow, how did that happen? Well, it's going to happen right in front of your eyes. If I keep painting away here and get it done. And the more you put on, the faster it gets on, the faster it dries. The faster it dries, the more you can do. I have done humongous canvases, like the whole back wall here, the same process, just like this. But I haven't done them in an hour. I have done them in a month or 2 or 3 months or whatever. So you just keep putting the spots on. Tap, 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 tapping on this canvas. Over and over. You wear your arms out. I tell you, you have to have muscles to paint. People laugh at me when I say that. I say, hey, listen, spend 6 or 7 hours standing on a canvas and you keep doing this over and over and over and over. Oops, I think my easel's falling apart. Huh, something fell off. I haven't used this easel in a long time. It was in a storage room, so I should have looked at it. I should have done a lot of things. I should have been born rich. I wouldn't have to worry about a lot of things, but I'm like everybody else. I just keep doing what I do and loving it. You know, you spend your whole life wanting to do something. And a lot of people never do it. They think, oh, I wish I could have done this and I wish I could have done that. I'm never going to say that because I did what I wanted to do. Even when I had times where I shouldn't have been doing it, I did it anyways. I have a very beautiful, understanding, loving wife who's put up with me for 55 years. And I think in 55 years, I've probably only been with her about 4 years because I spent so much time painting, doing hairdressing and doing whatever I had to do to put the kids through college, to put them through school. My daughter, to put her through Notre Dame in Hingham, Catholic school, all that. I got to throw some more white in here. All right, we're getting there. Now we're going to start to mix up the stuff again. See, the white gives me this lighter, tiny, you can put these little dots in here and there on top of the other color and it starts to jump. So I'm getting there. So what I do is I keep stabbing the canvas with this little tiny brush, and I keep mixing the paint, and I keep throwing it on. And it's different colors in different spots, and then I stand back a little and I take a look. Years ago, for years and years, I used to use a reducing mirror, which is the opposite of a magnifying glass. It pushes the painting away from you so that you can see the perspective. And I gave it to one of the girls in my building because she couldn't get the perspective down, and I kept telling her she needed to practice and do this and do, and I couldn't get her to do it, to understand, so I gave her the reducing mirror, and she says, "Oh my God, I can see what I'm doing." Hello, you know, sometimes the light doesn't come on too quick for some people, you know, I don't know. But you have to bless them and keep working with them and give them that, yeah, okay kind of thing, and it works. You've got to be kind. Loving kindness. That's a beautiful thing, loving kindness. Hard thing to put up with, especially when you got somebody that's giving you a tough time, you know, 17-year-old kid who thinks he knows everything, you know, or a daughter or whatever, or a husband or a wife or whatever. We all have these things in our lives, and we all have to overcome them, adjust to them, become them. You know, it's like getting around, getting over, getting through. We must be getting closer to the time. But so by throwing in a little of this green here and there, it makes it look more like flowers. You have this, oh, God, you're so good at this, Paul. Oh my gosh. And so when you keep doing this and you keep putting the purple in, and you keep on putting it on top and the different layers, it really starts to jump out at you, and you start to see how I'm organizing this, and it's starting to work. I should have taken something more simpler than this, but you know something, the challenge of this is so exciting and it's so beautiful. I wanted you to see how, hey, it's difficult for me. It's not as easy as it looks. But you know something? It's as easy as you're doing it because you're doing it. That's the thing about art. You know, if you say I can't do it, you can't. If you say I'm going to do it, you can. It's attitude. Attitude of gratitude, and the sense that you have the achievement and the ability and the mindset and all of that nonsense that you fight every step of the way with goes away. I sit in front of my paintings for hours and hours after I paint them, or my prints, and I say, God, you did a good job today. I'm glad you were here. You know, because I think everything we get or everything we are comes from a source that's far beyond who we are or what we are. And you always have to say, listen, I know that presence and that feeling and that attitude is there because it comes out in the work. So I go back here and I do some more of the white in the center of the picture, and I say, okay, here, give me some white, light. Block it in, hit the canvas. I may not finish this, but at least you have an idea of what the heck I'm doing, because eventually this is going to be a gorgeous painting. I might take it back to my studio and work on it and then come in and say, see what I did last week? And it was your fault, or the week after this when I'm supposed to be here, whenever I'm supposed to be here. Kevin comes and gets me because at 78 there's a lot of things I do, but one of them is forgetting everything. Oh, God. And there's something when you forget everything, you live a happier life. My wife says, you don't worry about bills, and you don't worry about this, and you don't worry about that. What are you going to do? You can't change yourself by worrying about it. You know, it says in the Bible, do not worry. I said, God, you had a sense of humor when you said that. Please. And I say, you know, the more you practice do not worry, the better you become at it. The more you become at it, the more you do, all of that stuff starts to go away. She says, I've never seen anybody like you. You just don't think about anything. You just do what you do. And I say, because I have so much to do. And if you come up to my studio and you have the courage to take a chance and walk around and look at stuff, hey, if you want to buy something, you can buy it. I don't care if you don't buy it because I love it. It's there for me as well as it's there for you. I always tell people, you know, something, if they say to me, you are too high, you are too low, or you don't charge enough, or I don't listen to all of that stuff. I know that the paintings that I do are a blessing, they're a gift for me. And if somebody buys them, they're a gift for them. And I have a lot of people throughout the year that have bought them. They've come in and they've said, and I have some people that have bought more than 100 paintings of mine. One couple, almost 150 paintings. They were my patrons, and the wife's in Florida, and she still buys my work, and she flies me down, and I move the paintings from one room to the next, and it's the best thing in the world to be an artist when you have people who love what you do. And I don't know how poor Van Gogh lived in his world, but he did, because he never sold a painting in his whole life, and look what they do with them today. $100 million. Crazy. They were giving them away at his wake. Can you imagine giving them away at his wake when they were waking him? They were giving away Van Gogh paintings just to get rid of them because they thought they were terrible, and people said, oh God, how ignorant we are, and how vastly we grow in understanding by looking at what people really have to say and what they really do. We all have a purpose, every one of us. I love Barbara. She has a purpose. She's the camera person here, and she's fantastic. I would love to have done it here in the 60s or the 70s. All of those things, all of those times. The things he brought up to me and reminded me of all of the things that people used to do. Oh, my God. We have stories, don't we? All right, let me see if I can dry up some of this and then maybe make one more dash at it. Because it's somewhat of a painting. It may not be a finished painting, but it is somewhat of a painting. It is somewhat of what this picture is, believe it or not. And it probably will take another 10 hours to make it look like the photograph. But you know something, I did something in an hour or 45 minutes or 50 minutes that has a light like that. So, and I know that it's going to look like that when I get to my studio. And when I get up in the morning and I come in and I work on this, I have to go to work at Home Depot Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, so I can't go back and fool around with this until Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. But I'm telling you, if you came by the studio next week and you went in there and you saw this on the easel, you'd laugh. You'd say, oh my God, it's nothing like the painting that you were putting up with. Nothing is done in a lifetime in an hour. Except Paul Crimi doing this show, The World of Art, with Paul Crimi at Hanson and Whitman, with Kevin and Paul and Barbara, and fabulous people, that we're doing what we're doing because we want you to love the idea that painting is something you can do. Just throwing the paint on the canvas. I mean, some people still throw the paint at the canvas today, and they call it abstract, you know, and they get away with it. And then they run it over and they throw it against the wall. And you take this, I'm throwing the paint on this canvas like this in an hour, and you're saying, oh my God, it's a joke, it's not a painting, it's just a blob of dots. When I'm done with this, it'll be a painting. And you'll say to myself, how did you do that? And I did it with patience, and I did it with knowledge, and I did it with an attitude. So we have to put some of the bricks in before we leave. So I'm going to get a little brush. I'm going to dry it off. I'm going to put black on, and I'm going to put a few lines on for the bricks. Have we run out of time, Paul? 15 minutes? Oh, I got enough time to do a lot of this stuff. See, that's attitude. Never say that you can't do it, because you can do anything. Your mind is a computer. And nobody's told you that? Well, I'm telling you. Your mind is better than the computer you sit at. You think you know what you're doing, but the computer is only an instrument. Your mind is built inside of you, and you can do anything you set your mind to do. Believe it or not, because God gave us this gift of using our mind. So I just dashed in a few lines to put down the sidewalk. All right, so I got 15 minutes. Watch what I can do in 15 minutes. This little guy is going to go wild in the next 15 minutes. Thank you, Paul. That's a bonus. This is like pointillism, too. I love pointillism. I mean, I don't like to do it, but I love it. It's a lot of work. I mean, that artist that did it died at a very young age, and I could see why. Good Lord, it was really difficult to do. The French got to be impressionists because they went to England and they looked at Turner's paintings. I was a 12-year-old kid when I went to the museum school on Saturday. And because I was a deaf kid, I had a doctor at the Children's Hospital introduce me to the dean at the museum school. I'm telling you, I had such a life. And he said, this young man is incredibly talented, and he should be at your school on Saturday, even though he's a little young. But, oh God, I had so much fun as a kid, honest to God, even though I had a lot of problems, and I was a nasty kid. It was my father's fault, because he was a Marine and he taught me a lot of stuff that he should have never taught me, that I never taught any of my kids. Because things like that get you in trouble when you get in trouble with people who are pushing other people around. I hate bullies, and I used to always get in trouble. I'll tell you, the police brought me home 5 times to my father. Finally, they stopped bringing me home. They just said, we're not going to bring you to your father, but we got to tell you, you can't beat up all the bullies. And I said, well, I'm not beating up the bullies. I'm beating up the people who are taking the paper boys' money away from them when they're trying to do their paper route. I couldn't stand people like that. And so one time I had a fight with 2 of them, and I put both of them down. And I'm not bragging about how tough I was. I'm just bragging about how nasty I was. And to teach somebody else, and the police come up and said to me, how could you put those 2 guys down so fast? They never had a chance. And I said it wasn't because I had a chance. It was because they were taking the money away from somebody that was doing his paper route, and it upset me. And they took me to my father, and they said, what are you teaching this kid? And my father says, I apologize for what I'm teaching him, but I was trying to teach him that a bully should be put in his place. Well, he said he put 2 bullies on their fanny in their place. See, that's a good thing. He's doing your job. And they looked at him, my father. They started laughing. I'm telling you. They said, well, when your son grows up, maybe he'll be a Quincy police officer. And I said, that's up to him, but I doubt it. He wants to be an artist. He wants to paint. He has this thing about art. And ever since Remix bought 2 of his paintings when he had them at the 10 minutes. At the Quincy South Shore Bank, he thinks he's Picasso or something like that. He's got this attitude, and nobody else is going to change him. So what I'm doing, they just flashed the thing. I only have 10 minutes. I'm going to keep throwing on this light, dark thing, and you're going to see it kind of jump a little, and it'll jump as I get into this area here and there, and it has a life of its own, and this painting will come to life no matter what, if I'm here or if I'm not. When I get to my studio, it'll come to life there. But it's going to have a life of its own, and you people saw the beginning of its life, and I'll bring it back next time I do a show, and I'll show you what it looks like finished. But it has somewhat, I'm going to stop for a second, of a likeness of what I tried to do with this particular piece of art. The photograph's a piece of art. Everything that we do is a piece of art. Cooking, painting, sewing, TV is a piece of art. So if we put it up here and leave it up there for a minute, and we step back a little, and we look at it, and we say, wow, it's not there yet, but it will be. And that's what I'm trying to show you, how you paint a painting, and you don't finish it right away. If you put it away, you come back, you work on it a couple of hours, put it away, cut it. By the time I'm through with this particular painting, it's going to have probably half an inch of paint on the surface, because the photograph in the painting are going to be built up. It isn't just throwing paint on canvas. It's not that at all. It's touching the canvas in a way that you project the image all around, and then you have to work on it detail-wise. I call this the cake. This is only the cake. The frosting on the cake is the photograph and how it looks finished, how it looks complete. In order to get there, you probably have to spend 5 or 6 hours on this particular painting. But what I did in an hour is show you the foundation of a painting. And that, to me, is as important as doing the whole entire painting. I may be able to do a whole painting like I did last time in a half an hour, the next time I do this show. But I don't care. If I brought this back and finished it the next time I do the show, that's another show I could do. But I want to go back to the studio and finish it and bring it in complete and then show you how it looks. And you're going to say, that doesn't look anything like the painting you had when you were doing the show. Well, I'm telling you, a painting is never finished until the artist puts a frame on it and somebody buys it. If you come into my studio and you buy my painting, the painting's finished. It's done. But if you don't come into my studio and buy it, the painting has another life, and I may go after it again and touch up a spot or change a spot here or there. I go buy these paintings constantly. I take them off the wall and I put clouds on the ocean paintings, like I showed you earlier, that painting I did. You are never finished with a painting. So you may be finished with this show, but I'm telling you, I'll be back. God bless and good night.